Hey everybody, it's Professor Cokkinos. So AC171, Chapter 2, Convergence and the Reshaping of Mass Communication. Things move slower. You had the printing press, books, and then, major things like radio or television, landmarks, internet. Things are getting faster and faster. And now, technology is changing things every day. So to keep up with this kind of stuff, you have to have, it's like a full-time job. So it's really interesting for you because you guys are in the industry, entering it, and you are equipped, to follow these changes. So the book is a little bit out of date here. It's, like I said, things are changing so fast, even though the book, anything that's going to be published is going to be too late, for them to cover everything. So the idea of sales of CDs. I mean, I would think a lot of people don't even know what CDs are anymore, right? I mean, today music is online and that's pretty much it. There are retro kind of people who maybe look back and say, well, I really want to get a vinyl collection. But things have changed a lot. When I grew up, there were 3 networks. You could watch 3 networks and 1 public television station, and there were a couple of local networks here in New York City, Channel 9 or Channel, I think it was 5, actually, it was local, Fox. DVD sales, again, who's going to really watch a movie on DVD when you can stream it on Netflix or Hulu? Video game revenue is flat, and it's changed a lot. I think it's moved a lot online. The newspaper industry, lots of layoffs. It's been really decimated. News is available on so many different channels. How many people actually go to the newsstand and buy the paper in the morning? It used to be everybody would do that. The magazine industry, and Freudians lived it there. It's certainly been injured by the new media and new methods of content creation and delivery. A lot of magazines have followed, the online trend and they have their online versions. But it used to be that there were some major magazines that everybody looked at, like Life magazine and Look magazine. So it was a way of kind of unifying the culture. Listenership for commercial radio. Again, I used to listen to commercial radio all the time. I haven't tuned in years, really. I listen to everything either as a podcast or Spotify streams, things like that. I download music and, where am I going to listen to radio? I'm going to customize my experience. Media rules have changed. A lot of industries are making a lot of money on these changes. Consumption of media is at an all-time high. There's so many different distribution channels, that people are spending a lot of time locked into their phone, watching media, even still watching traditional television, smart television. And the idea of being able to consume media from many different sources. So you might be watching an episode on Netflix while you're scanning something else on your phone, multitasking that media experience. The idea of electronic sell-through. This is where, why would I go to a video store when I can download and own the movie from Amazon? And the same thing with traditional distinctions. I could watch YouTube for news. I could watch YouTube for music. I could watch YouTube for entertainment. So the idea that this traditional kind of separate programming is being dissolved. Again, this is a little bit out of date, but the trends are there. You can see that magazine consumption is pathetic. Newspaper consumption is also pathetic. Other traditional media, what are we looking at? Like terrestrial radio, but certainly your viewing and listening and consumption experience has moved to your mobile device and your smart devices. Smart television, things like Roku box hooked up to your TV is where you're going to shop for your media consumption and consume it there. The other ideas are, with all these platforms to consider, how much is going to be charged, how much will consumers bear. There's so many choices, so there is some healthy competition in that area, where you can kind of choose between, say, Amazon Prime or Netflix or Hulu, and get a decent price because there is that competition. Lots of free stuff to consume there. Some of the problems, I think, with this is this idea of concentration of ownership. You have Disney or Apple buying all these smaller media companies, and it's kind of like a monopoly because they are controlling everything, and they're limiting the number of voices and the overall kind of cultural effects. 7 major companies own all of the media pretty much, and their idea is to make money, obviously, not so much to ensure culture. So the idea of a lowest common denominator, LCD is a lowest common denominator, thinking that all our broadcasts are going to be written on a second grade level, so it can be consumed globally. Economy of scale. So this refers to the idea that, if I had a news show and I sent a reporter out, and I ran 2 stations and then we came back and edited the news show and broadcast it, it would cost just as much as if I did the same thing and sent it out over 200 stations. So they're pretty much, an economy of scale here. I might as well buy up more stations because I'm producing the news anyway. And here we have, again, the idea of a kind of oligopoly or I'm losing my monopoly of, various media outlets, which again can kind of narrow the cultural kind of distribution. Conflict of interest. So, for instance, let's say I'm going to say something, this is just a, fictional kind of thing, but maybe there was an accident at one of the Disney parks, and they may not really push that on their ABC-owned news channels. So the idea of conflict of interest. Bottom line mentality is what I just mentioned. Economy of scale, news desert, so places where there's no one there anymore to have local news. You just gotta look at the national news or the larger news, but small communities are losing out here. Again, globalization, the lack of diversity. In Europe, the idea of consuming American media has been on for a long time, and the type of shows that they like to consume are the lower kind of end things, not the highbrow programming. And again, it kind of is unifying the culture. It's pushing away, say, smaller traditional values. This idea between localization and globalization. Audience fragmentation. So again, with so many channels, we can really target, as advertisers, marketers, and communicators, we can target our audience much more specifically. So, podcasting, which, blew up in the last few years. So now there's so many different podcasts. You can have the left-handed tennis players podcast, really customized podcasts, targeting audiences. Streaming, of course, that all the time, right? The idea of ad insertion. So just watching Hulu, right? You can't watch their shows. You used to be able to watch their movies without interruption, but now, they are interrupting everything. Zone casting is an idea that in radio, different markets might hear different commercials at the same time. So it's one radio show, but it has these donut holes built into it where, if you're listening in New York City, you're going to hear a different ad than if you're listening upstate or something like that. Location-based mobile advertising, I know you guys are into that, and the idea that, it's kind of trending that if you are, say, doing a Google search for something, all of a sudden you're going to see an ad for that. So obviously they are getting, cookies and feedback, and they know what you're interested in, and they're sending you customized information with that. So a lot of this is, kind of, there's so many different kind of publics out there. So, I may like a certain cooking show. So I used to watch Food Network, but then I can now go and say, I like a certain kind of cuisine, or I may want to do something that's a home cook. So I may want to do something that's like, a Mexican, vegetarian, home cooked economy meal prep show. So you can really kind of narrow down and zone in on a consumer's tastes and interests. And there's some good things here too, like the idea that you can have communication between smaller groups of people who are interested in the same thing through Instagram and Twitter. So you have a group that you're interested in, and it's that's those left-handed tennis players, or those budget Mexican vegetarians, and you'll kind of have people that you can side with and communicate with. Hyper commercialism. So there's always been this commercial thing. This stuff is expensive. So to buy all these companies, you got to get paid back somewhere. So what do? They sell advertising, and advertising, it used to be something like 7 minutes an hour, and now it's 20 minutes an hour. So you're getting more kind of interruptions in advertising and TV. I'm talking about TV kind of commercials, product placements. So not only are you watching commercials in a show like The Voice, but like while you're watching the show, they're talking about a certain kind of food, and there's that food and there's that brand in your face. So while you're watching the kind of what you think is the editorial content of the program, it's really the advertorial content of the program. So brand endorsements, you can have brands that are actually creating their own programming. Payola is this idea that, as a producer, a music producer, I would give money so that you play my artists. And it's not because the artist is so great, it's because I'm paying you to play it. That's why you're going to actually play it. There's a famous product placement. Coca-Cola, there's used to be a controversy of, should the photographer or the videographer have kind of photoshopped that out. So when, during a documentary, you're interviewing someone who's drinking a Coke, that's one thing. But, if it's obviously placed there, so streaming services like Amazon, 100% of their programming has some type of product placement built right into it. So you can kind of, see it right there. It's in your face. And then this idea of this kind of erosion among traditional media outlets. So The Walking Dead, you can watch it, but they also have a certain web episode that you can only watch through the internet. Wi-Fi, certainly, I have these cable boxes that I want to bring back because I'm paying for them, and I don't watch that anymore, right? I just look at everything through Apple TV or YouTube or some other app that I can just watch everything through Wi-Fi. And I talked about the Read Anywhere app because you can read this book through your Wi-Fi. The synergy where Disney again owns. News organization. They own publishing. They own video production. So they're kind of controlling a lot of different outlets there. And again, to us, it doesn't matter. Platform agnostic means, I'll get it anywhere I want. I'll get it anywhere it's most convenient for me. And then, look at devices that, years ago you had to buy a camera. Today you have a smartphone. Why do you need to buy a camera? The camera that's in your smartphone is better than most cameras that were available, 5-10 years ago. So unless you're really, a professional photographer or buff or whatever, you're going to be able to do just about everything you want to do with your smartphone. And it's not only a camera, it's also a computer, it's a calculator, it's a audio recorder, it's a video editor. So, again, a lot of these other industries are being kind of squashed by this kind of convergence. And wrapping it up here, there are good things that are coming out of it too. So it used to be like the network was the big communicator, say, right? So they were the ones who were in charge of, encoding the message and sending it out, and they were the gatekeeper who was kind of censoring and knowing what messages they were going to send you. Now you have individuals doing this. So, I'm recording my podcast, and I'm the one individually who are making those decisions, right? So I'm really kind of doing it also on a very inexpensive basis, where the networks had to pay a lot of money to control the airwaves. Now, the control is in the hands of the people. And also as an audience, it's changed. So as an audience member listening to that podcast, you're able to give feedback in a much more kind of intimate way than it was in the past. So while I'm listening to the podcast, conceivably I could send an email message and get feedback right away, right? Or I might be watching a Facebook Live, and right away I'm chatting with them, and they're like, well, Professor Cokkinos or Michael just asked a question. Why don't we include that right now in the program, right? So you get this kind of immediate feedback. So lots of good, lots of things that have potential to be bad and limiting. But again, it's the knowledge, the power that you guys have getting into the industry, understanding these changes and the way that they impact the new media and how it's going to influence your career. That's what's critical, and that's what I'm concerned about, and why you hopefully took the class. So this is part of the silver lining. Again, understanding this stuff will make you more marketable, more viable, more potential to make a change, make a difference, make money in the future. So enjoy the reading, and I'm going to be posting some other interesting new assignments soon. I hope you guys enjoyed my show today. It's shorter than last week, which was good, and next week is books.